Hey friends, do you ever feel like you are working hard but still not getting anywhere? Like no matter how much effort you put in, you are still stuck being average? By the end of this conversation, you will understand why most people never become great at anything and what separates the masters from everyone else. Because if you miss this, you will spend your entire life wondering what could have been. Hi Surin, so glad to have you here today. Surin recently discovered something that completely changed how he sees success and skill. Surin, what made you pick up this book about mastery?
Honestly, Sia, I was frustrated. I was working hard, really hard, but I felt like I was just spinning my wheels. Everyone around me seemed to be moving faster, getting better results, and I thought maybe I just do not have what it takes. Then this book told me something uncomfortable. It said the problem is not talent. The problem is that most of us never commit to the real journey.
Wait, so you're saying talent is not the main thing? That's hard to believe because we always hear about natural gifts and born geniuses.
I know, I thought the same thing. But here's what the book reveals. Every single person is born with some kind of inner inclination, something that naturally pulls them. As kids, we all had things we could do for hours without getting bored. But as we grow up, society teaches us to ignore that voice. We chase money, status, what our parents want, what looks safe, and we end up living someone else's life.
That hits different. I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling of being on the wrong path. But how do you even find that inner voice again?
That's the first uncomfortable truth. You have to be willing to admit that maybe you've been lying to yourself. Maybe the career you chose, the path you're on, it's not really yours. And that's scary because it means starting over in some way. But the book says this clearly. If you ignore your true calling, you'll always feel empty inside. You might look successful on the outside, but inside, you'll know something is missing.
So it starts with brutal honesty with yourself. But then what? Once you know your direction, then what?
Then comes the part nobody wants to hear. The long, silent, boring phase. The book calls it apprenticeship. This is where most people quit.
Why do they quit?
Because apprenticeship means being a beginner again. It means you work hard, you learn, you make mistakes. But nobody's clapping for you. Nobody's giving you instant results. And in today's world, we want everything fast. We see people blow up overnight on social media and we think that's how success works. But that's the lie.
So mastery actually takes years of invisible work.
Yes, and not just any work. The book talks about something called deep practice. This is not just showing up and going through the motions. Deep practice means putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, doing the thing that scares you, the thing you might fail at, because that's where real growth happens.
Give me an example. What does deep practice actually look like?
Okay, imagine you want to become a great writer. Most people just write whatever feels comfortable. They write the same type of stuff, the same way every day. Deep practice would mean taking your weakest area, maybe dialogue or descriptions, and focusing only on that until it becomes your strength. It means breaking down your skill into tiny pieces and mastering each piece. It's painful, it's slow, but it's the only way to actually get better.
That makes sense, but it also sounds exhausting. How do people stay motivated through all of that?
Here's the thing, Sia. The book says motivation is not what keeps you going. It's the understanding that this is the only path. Masters don't rely on feeling motivated. They just show up every single day, whether they feel like it or not, because they know the alternative is staying average forever.
So it's more about discipline than inspiration.
Exactly. And here's something else the book reveals. You need feedback, real, honest feedback. Most people avoid criticism because it hurts their ego, but masters actively seek it out. They want to know where they're failing because every failure is a lesson.
That's a tough pill to swallow. Nobody likes being told they're wrong.
I know, but that's the difference. Average people protect their ego. Masters protect their growth. They'd rather hear the hard truth and improve than stay comfortable and stuck.
Okay, so we have deep practice, we have discipline, we have feedback. But Surin, what about dealing with people? Because you can be skilled, but if you can't work with others, you're stuck, right?
This is huge, and honestly, it's where a lot of talented people fail. The book has an entire section on social intelligence. And it's not about being fake or manipulative, it's about understanding that every person has fears, insecurities, needs. If you can't read people, if you can't navigate office politics or team dynamics, your skills won't matter.
So emotional intelligence is just as important as technical skill.
Sometimes even more important, because the world is run by relationships. Masters know when to speak, when to stay quiet, when to push, when to step back. They don't let their ego clash with everyone. They play the long game.
That's really interesting because we often think of mastery as just being the best at something, but it sounds like it's also about being wise.
That's exactly it. Mastery is not just skill, it's wisdom. It's knowing how the game is played and playing it better than everyone else.
All right, so let me ask you something. After years of practice, discipline, dealing with people, what happens next? Do you just become really good and that's it?
No, and this is where it gets really interesting. The book talks about creative breakthrough. After you've spent years learning the rules, mastering the basics, something shifts. You start seeing patterns others don't see. You start making connections that feel almost magical. But it's not magic. It's just that your brain has absorbed so much knowledge that it can now play with it.
So creativity comes after mastery, not before.
Yes, that's the key point. People who try to be creative without first learning the fundamentals just end up being weird. But people who master the basics first and then break the rules, they make history. They innovate in ways that actually matter.
That's powerful. But I imagine when you start doing something different, people push back, right?
Always. The moment you think differently, people will criticize you. They'll call you crazy, tell you it won't work, maybe even laugh at you. But the book says this is where courage matters most. Masters don't let that noise stop them. They trust their vision and let their work speak for itself.
So thick skin is part of the package.
Absolutely. You can't be great and be loved by everyone at the same time. At some point, you have to choose between approval and excellence.
Surin, I have to ask you about something practical. A lot of people listening right now might be thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but I have a job, I have bills, I have responsibilities. How do you balance all of that with this long journey toward mastery?
That's the real question. And honestly, the book doesn't sugarcoat it. It's hard. Most masters had to make sacrifices. They worked regular jobs while spending nights and weekends on their craft. They lived simply so they could afford to keep learning. They said no to things other people said yes to. It's not glamorous, it's just necessary.
That's intense. So there's no shortcut, no hack, no easy way?
None. And that's actually the good news.
How is that good news?
Because it means the barrier to entry is high. Most people won't do it. Most people will give up when it gets hard, when it gets boring, when nobody's watching. So if you're willing to do the work, you're already ahead of 90% of people.
That's actually a really encouraging way to look at it. The difficulty is what makes it worth it.
Exactly. And here's something else the book reveals. Even after you reach a high level, you can't stop. The moment you think you've made it, the moment you stop learning, you start declining.
So it's a lifelong commitment?
Yes, but here's the beautiful part. By the time you reach that level, you don't want to stop. Because the journey itself becomes who you are. You're not chasing success anymore. You're just being yourself. And that self happens to be exceptional.
That's a beautiful way to think about it. So mastery is not a destination, it's a way of living.
That's it. And when you live that way, something interesting happens. You stop needing external validation. You stop comparing yourself to others. You just focus on your own growth, your own path. And ironically, that's when people start noticing you.
Because you're no longer performing, you're just being.
Exactly. Your work becomes an extension of who you are, and people can feel that authenticity. That's what makes masters magnetic. It's not arrogance, it's quiet confidence.
Surin, I have to ask you, after reading all of this, what was the biggest shift in your own life?
The biggest shift was letting go of the need to be fast. I used to compare my progress to others and feel like I was falling behind. Now I understand that everyone's timeline is different. What matters is not how fast you move, but whether you're moving in the right direction, and whether you're willing to keep moving even when it's hard.
That's really honest. Thank you for sharing that. So for someone listening right now who feels stuck, what would you say to them?
First, be honest with yourself about what you actually care about. Not what you think you should care about, but what genuinely pulls you.
Second, accept that the road will be long and often lonely. Third, commit to deep practice, not just busy work. Fourth, seek feedback even when it hurts. And fifth, trust the process even when you can't see the results yet.
Those are solid steps, but I imagine the hardest part is just starting, right?
Always. Starting means admitting you're a beginner. It means being bad at something for a while. It means facing your own limitations. But the alternative is staying where you are forever. And that to me is scarier than any temporary discomfort.
That's a really encouraging way to look at it, because when you put it that way, the risk of not trying is actually bigger than the risk of trying.
That's exactly it. Most people think playing it safe is the safe option. But living your whole life wondering what could have been, that's the real danger.
Before we wrap up, one last thing. How would you summarize this book in one feeling?
Mastery is not a gift, it's a choice. It's choosing patience over instant results.
Friends, this was today's book summary. Please let us know how you liked it by commenting below. And thank you for listening to the summary till the end.